Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. In this video, I want to document the August 8th reported death of Francisco Vasquez. This story is very much connected to the Sandy Bland death. If you haven't seen my videos on Sandy Bland, please check those out. In the video, I talked about how often the agents who participate in these mainstream media hoaxes are from Chicago and from Illinois. And here, less than a month after the death of Sandy Bland, we get a related story of a man from Illinois arrested for drunk driving and found dead in his jail cell 21 minutes later. So let's begin by watching the mainstream media coverage of this, and then we'll go through and document the other curiosities. Here we go.
New at 5, another jail death controversy, this time in Texas. Questions tonight from the family of a former suburban man who died in police custody. They are disputing claims that he committed suicide. Good evening, everyone. Francisco Vasquez's family says that he was making plans for the future and that he would not have taken his own life.
He lived in West Suburban Woodridge before moving to a city near Austin, Texas. Vasquez died in a holding cell in Georgetown after he was arrested on a drunk driving charge on Saturday. Eyewitness News reporter Ben Bradley live in Woodridge with a story for us. Ben?
Ron, within an hour of Francisco Vasquez's arrest, he was dead. And now those who knew him from this block here in Woodridge to his new home in Texas are saying that sheriff's officers have a lot to answer for.
If there's proof, you got it. That's all we want. Show us a video.
Francisco Vasquez's son, a Downers Grove North High School grad, doesn't understand how his dad could end up dead in a Texas jail cell. Police say he was arrested near Austin on the afternoon of August 8th on suspicion of driving drunk. Relatives say, no way.
When we heard about what happened, that's why we all knew. And we started telling the families, started telling friends, and everyone questioned it.
Vasquez's family began calling the jail before 5 in the evening. They called and say they were given excuse after excuse and told to call back. Relatives say it wasn't until almost 11 p.m. that they learned from jail officials he was found hanging less than an hour after he first arrived at the jail, and around the same time, loved ones made their first phone call.
When they told us, we thought, okay, he was sitting in the cell all day. Maybe he lost it, maybe he snapped, maybe he cracked. But then we found out later it was
21 minutes.
21 minutes. And we're like, yeah, no, this isn't right. There's no possible chance he did this.
The charges were so minor, so minute, it doesn't even compute. There's just no way.
Friends say Francisco Vasquez lived in Illinois for nearly 20 years. He raised his 4 kids here and loved to play with his 4 grandkids. The entire family moved to Texas 2 years ago for Vasquez's job as a welder.
I was absolutely devastated. As soon as I heard it, and then I heard it was through, asphyxiation and supposed suicide. No, impossible. This was a man that lived for his family. This was a man that you never in a million years would do something like this.
The sheriff in charge of that jail down in Texas did not return our repeated calls for comment. Now, tonight, we have learned that the Texas Commission on Jail Standards, as well as the Texas Rangers, will be investigating Francisco Vasquez's death. That's the latest live in Woodridge. Ben Bradley, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you.
All right, Truth Seeker. So there was the reporting. Within that reporting, they talked about the jail cell. Williamson County Jail has gematria of 86, a number connected to the word symbol, triangle, pyramid. Also, those numbers are connected to death. Caskets go 6 feet deep or 8 feet long. With regards to Woodridge and Williamson, they both have gematria of 55, one of those multiples of 11, a number that gets coded often. A number connected to Satan, and as I routinely assert and show with documented evidence, the people who run our government, who run our mainstream media, who run our jails, they are very much Freemasons, they are very much Satanists, and they very much worship these numbers, as silly as that may sound. So with regards to the victim, Francisco Vasquez, who died August 8th, notice that the name Francisco has simple English gematria of 88, much like 88 for his August 8th death. Vasquez has simple English gematria of 111, meaning in English gematria, his name sums to 666 because you just multiply by 6. Numbers that get coded oh so often. And also, Truth Seeker, this reminds me how Donald Trump, about a month ago now, made some very racist remarks about Hispanics. Said they're coming across the border, they're raping women, they're causing crime, blah, blah, blah. The name Trump has gematria of 88, just like poison and program. And if you can recall, just days after Donald Trump came out and made these remarks, there was a story in San Francisco, kind of like Francisco, where a man supposedly found a federal agent's gun in a wet t-shirt on a pier, picked it up, and accidentally shot a woman. Remember this story? The Hispanic man's name was Juan Francisco Sanchez Lopez, having Pythagorean gematria of 113, a ridiculous sounding name, with the often coded gematria representing mainstream green screen dishonest. Just days before this story of Francisco Vasquez, there was a similar story of an activist being arrested in Philadelphia, Mississippi. His name was supposedly Rexdale Henry. Notice that Rexdale has this gematria of 33. Numbers often coded into the hoax. The name Sandy Bland has all sorts of 33 gematria. This story is all by the numbers, and why it stands out to me is because of the location, Philadelphia, as well as it being another story of a person dying in a jail cell right after being arrested. There was a story recently in the media about a hitchhiking robot, Hitchbot, traveling from Europe all the way to San Francisco, and it was in the United States on its way to San Francisco, and it was destroyed in Philadelphia. So it didn't make it to its destination of San Francisco. You can look up this story of Hitchbot if you haven't heard about it. But I talked about that story on my blog, and I pointed out how often they're coding San Francisco and Philadelphia through all these mainstream stories. If you're new here and this is your first time watching one of my videos, you should know that the purpose of my work is to show how fake the mainstream media is, how agenda-based it is, and how they link up all their fake stories in the coded details, from the names to the locations to all the numbers behind it. I pointed this out in the Sandy Bland video I did before any of these stories had happened. Of course, that name Bland has simple English gematria of 33. The name she goes by, Sandy Bland, has Pythagorean gematria of 33, 42 with the S exception, just like Black Lives. Right now, if you turn on the TV and flip through the channels, it probably won't take long before you hear a news story about Black Lives Matter and all the injustice from police against blacks and people of other races. They're even putting out stories about Hispanics and whites now. But they also like to mix in the stories of people of other races assaulting white police officers. All part of the headstorm the media spins against the masses with their confusing fake stories. This is the agenda: deceive, divide, confuse, conquer. So yeah, if you haven't seen my video on Sandy Bland, please go back and check that out. So much coding. They made a point about how angry the officer was. The officer's name was Texas State Trooper Brian Insenia, which has name gematria of 133, a number connected to anger, as well as temptation, giving in to temptation often when we're angry. Name gematria of 142, just like the word terrorists. On the September 11th attacks, the attacks lasted 102 minutes, which is the same as an hour and 42 minutes. Again, the word terrorist equals 142. I bring up 9/11, Truth Seeker, because it's one of the most coded events of all time from this very fake, agenda-driven media. In the Sandy Bland headline, they were making the big deal about how the officer said, "I will light you up." He said that just before he had her come out of the car. "I will light you up" has gematria of 84, the Jesuit number, the United States of America number, the number connected to Obama. I'll also point out that Austin, in simple English gematria, sums to 84. And that last story we watched was being broadcast out of Austin. Austin. And in case you missed it, this is the story of Juan Francisco Lopez Sanchez, the man who picked up the federal agent's gun and randomly shot the 31-year-old woman, supposedly just days after Donald Trump made these hideous remarks about Hispanics. It's just all so pathetic and so easy to see through once your eyes are open. The problem at this day and age is so few people's eyes are open. So that's why we do these videos. Wake people up, show them what's really going on. Sandy Bland, she died July 13th, a little more than a month ago. Tomorrow will be 33 days since her death. Again, please see my video on Sandy Bland if you haven't already. I know people need to wake up to that because all throughout the media, talk radio, I hear people getting worked up over this story still, when it's so obviously fake. And one last point with regards to the words suffocate and asphyxiate, they have gematria of 33 and 47. Special numbers often coded into the hoaxes. There's so much focus on suffocate, Charlie Garner, and a whole lot more. Recall Charlie Garner recently got or Eric Garner, excuse me, his name was Eric Garner. He got a $5.9 million settlement, and as I always talk about, the numbers 42 and 59 are coded over Black Americans, even Africans, over and over. Should note that suffocate with the S exception has gematria of 42. So that's pretty much the message, Truth Seeker. Help me spread the word, please. We have to wake up people to what is really going on. All right, until next time.